I'll just have 5 more minutes. I promise. Just 5 minutes. It's pretty much time to get up. It's gone 5 o'clock. I'm just waiting for the cockerel to kick off. I've got a couple of tasks I want to do today. One of them is to go into some of my bees just to see what the stores are like. But what I'd like to do also is to see if I can't make a bit of string. We all take string very much for granted, and it would be very nice to know that if you had to, you could make some reasonable string. Now I know there are many materials to make it out of. Nettles, that's probably the one I'll use. Tree bark, brambles. But anyway, we've got to start somewhere, and it's probably a little bit late in the year for using nettles. I don't know. I'm going to give it a try anyway. But I'm just going to wait for the cockerel to kick off, and then I'll get up. So I'll just have 5 more minutes, if the dog will let me. Now obviously I could just take a light from my candle here, get the fire started, but that's not good for practice, is it? So while it's easy, let's do it the hard way. Oh, get this way around. I'll just use a previous hole. So this is my bow drill set. So that's the spindle. That's made out of ivy. This is the half board. I think this is made out of ivy, a thick piece of ivy. The top bearing, that's just a piece of furniture, piece of yeah, I don't know, it's probably beech, and I've just stuck a nut in there so that the spindle has low friction. And this is just a piece of I don't know, it might be hazel, I don't know, can't remember. I'm just going to use a previous hole. That hole there's not down too far. I'll just take the shine off that. I could save these bits are very carbonous. Just put them down there. There's that cockerel kicking off now. Bit late, isn't he? Traffic noise is building now as well. I don't know what time it is, I've got no idea. Well, I have, it's about, be getting on for 5:45, 6 o'clock I would think. That'll do. Right, can I remember what I'm doing? I'll be upside down to start off with. Upside down and inside out. Upside down and inside out. That's it. It's not very flat, this. Might do it, might not, we'll see. Damp conditions, so it's going to take a little while. Well, that didn't take too much, did it? Considering it's damp. Just let that air a little. I've got the bundle here. It's a bit loose, and I've put a little bit of punk wood in the bottom. I haven't got enough there. I have to get some more. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, setting the tent on fire. Right. I'm actually not going to use that. Can you see it? I'm actually not going to use that. I'm going to set a little hexi block on fire in my little stove. Oh, the place is full of smoke now. The place is full of smoke and there's no mozzies. Anyway. That was just a little bit of practice first thing on the morning when it's a little bit damp. Ivy is a very good wood. Willow's good, poplar's good. That's all I've really tried. Poplar, willow and ivy. I just don't want to burn too much wood and make too much smoke at this time in the morning. I'm going to be using stinging nettles to make my cordage out of, but where you find stinging nettles you usually also find brambles, and you can make cordage out of brambles, but I don't know anything about that, so I'm going to stick with stinging nettles. But while I'm here, we'll also take a few brambles. I'm not out brambling as such, but I'll just eat a few. It's not been a particularly good year for brambles this year because it's been a bit dry. There's a little shrew that's succumbed to something. Only tiny. You don't have to wear gloves, but you are going to get stung if you don't wear gloves. Whenever I don't wear gloves, I always get stung. These are red nettles. Right. Right, so we brought the nettles back, and the red nettles, and I'm going to roll the stalks and flatten them a bit. Especially these nodes in the stalks where the leaves come out, they're quite tough. So these nettles are quite old now, well past the best I think. Anyway, I've got them split. Be able to take these gloves off now. I keep getting stung. Right, I'm just splitting that with my nail and opening it out. Now we want to get rid of this pith inside. So I'm just gonna bend it. I've snapped the pith off. Oh, it's hard when it gets to these nodes. There we go. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to peel as much of the outer skin off as I can. That's the bit we want. Get it as long as possible. We'll do the same on the other side. So I'm trying to get this pith out of it. I just want the outer skin. I don't want this white pith. So there's one section there. So that's a fairly nice piece. I'll break that down, but at the moment I'm going to dry it out, so I'll just leave it as it is for the moment. That's quite strong, that. I crushed my finger with that. Stop the blood flow. Alright, that's not bad. Got a fair few pieces on there. We'll get quite a bit of material to work with. So this is the working material I've processed from the nettles, and this has to dry yet, so I'll put it up on top of the tent somewhere and hopefully in a couple of hours it will dry, and then we'll see if we can make some cordage out of it. This is a lot of the pith from the inside of the nettles, along with some material I couldn't recover. That'll go in the compost heap. So I'll get back to you in a couple of hours when this is dried and shrunk almost to nothing, and see what we can do with it. So this is the nettle fibres drying out, and as you can see they're going a lot thinner and they're a little bit brittle at the moment, but what I'm doing is I'm shrinking them up, and then I'll re-wet them to soften them, and then I'll start the string making or the cordage making process. Next to it drying out big chunks of punk wood that we use for the smoker. So this is a bit wet at the moment, but when it's dry it'll be just like the texture and weight of polystyrene. That's fairly dry. And I might just char some of this out for the flint and steel. Right, so a couple hours after drying then, or a couple hours drying, and it's gone much, you've got almost nothing left, but these are quite brittle now, so if I try and work this it'll just snap, so I've got to re-soak it, and then we're ready to actually make some cordage. So I'll just re-soak it. Won't take long to wet it. It's just rainwater I've got it in. Just give it a few minutes and then we'll actually try and make some string or cordage. Right then. So what I'm going to do, I don't know, really you should split these up, I think. Make them a bit finer. Otherwise all them nodes where the leaves are will be in the same place. Alright, we're not going for perfection. Right, so I'm going to take a piece of string, bearing in mind I don't really know what I'm doing here, and I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to roll both halves on my thigh. Now this might work and it might not. Right, so I'm rolling both halves in the same direction. Bring it in a bit closer. Then eventually these two halves want to twist together like that, and I'll let them twist together. So I'm rolling both halves. I'm rolling that half away from me and then crossing it over. That half away from me and bringing it over. Away from me and bringing it over. Away from me and bringing it over. Just carry on doing that. So roll that strand away and bring it over the top of the other one. Take the other strand, roll it away from you, bring it over the top of the other one, and just keep doing that. And then as we start running out of strands, we can just get a few more. As we start running out, as they start thinning out, we can just start adding strands in. So I'm going to try and add a few more in that one, because if one gets significantly thinner than the other, then the thinner one just starts wrapping around the big one instead of them both wrapping around each other, if you like. Starts getting dry and difficult to work, then I'll just dunk it in the water. Now of course this does mean that once I've completed it, it's going to dry out. So what I'm going to do to prevent that is I'm just going to mix up some a bit of beeswax with some olive oil, just to make it fairly fluid, fairly pasty. I suppose you could just use Vaseline. You could just use olive oil. Could use just vegetable oil, just to stop it from drying out. And it'll also help bind the fibres together, make it a little bit stronger. But I'm not reckoning on being able to make a bowstring with this for a bow drill. Although I would like to be able to. So that's how much we've got so far, and don't worry about them ends sticking out. The big ones I'll just cut off, and any little tiny ones I could always just burn them off. But that's looking not too bad. I'm talking as if I know what I'm doing, but I have done this once before. I've done it once before and it was reasonably successful. I used a slightly different technique though. I was rolling it on my thigh, but it only really works on bare skin. So you can see how valuable 3 balls of cotton string, or 4 balls, is it 4 balls of jute twine, I think so, for £1 at the pound shop. How really good value for money that is. Having said that though, you know, if you're on a desert island or somewhere, you're going to get plenty of polythene rope washed up on the beach. Right, well, you've probably seen enough of this now, so I will just carry on because I do want a reasonable amount of string. You can see that Oatsy the Iceman and his mates, if they had a ball of string, they're not going to be cutting it willy-nilly, are they? They'll be putting knots in it they could undo. Although for strong stuff you probably use strips of animal hide. Right, so we've ended up with some fine cordage, about well, about 2 metres worth. At the moment it's very flexible and pliable, but as it dries out I think you could end up snapping it, which is why I don't want to test it for strength at the moment. I want to put some olive oil and beeswax into it just to keep it supple. And I don't really want to test the strength of it because it's too valuable. It looks a bit shabby because there's a lot of the as you weave in the new pieces of fibre, there's the bits of the start of those sticking out, so they just want cutting off. And I can feel it drying out now, so. But I've learnt quite a lot from it. You can see it starts off, where's the start? That's the start where there's that loop, and it starts off fairly regular and fairly narrow gauge, and as I went on I got a bit thicker and thicker, and then when I came to the end I've just finished it with a knot in the end. But you learn, it does get easier as you're doing it, so you can produce, I could produce a lot more than this in a single day. I could produce a lot more than this from going out finding the nettles, cutting the nettles, the initial drying process, and then re-soaking them. And I would sort the fibres out better if I did it again. I would get a lot more nettles if I did it again, so I had a few better fibres to choose from. And as you do it, you get better at, or faster at actually making it. But it's worked out very well. You learn to use your mouth a lot as well as a third hand. Presumably if you did bushcraft long enough you'd learn to use your feet a lot more as well. True bushcraft anyway. So that's the finished product, another success. You never know, this might lead on to some sort of glue. You just can't fit everything in though. It's been over a week now, and it might be a week or so again before I get the next one out, because I just do this as a hobby. But in the future sometime I'll try making some glue, some sort of glue, either on based on resin or birch pitch. But anyway, I want to get this, it's it's drying out now, so it might become brittle when it dries out, so I want to get it some sort of olive oil and beeswax in it. So I'll finish it at that then before the sun disappears behind the roofs, and I'll see you in a week or so. Right, we're just boiling it in a bit of olive oil and a tiny bit of beeswax, just to get them fibres all matted together and suppled up and waterproofed. So that should do it. Strong string, that's what we want. Right, battery's about dead, and I've got to go in and do some washing up.